everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the Dice Tower. Today I'm talking about the most checked out games on the Dice Tower Cruise 2025. Dice Tower Cruise, we have about 800 people coming on a Royal Caribbean ship, and we just did it last week, and it's the most amazing thing you can possibly imagine, playing games on a ship. We'll have a blog up about it next week, and you can see some of the things we did there. And if you're thinking about coming, you should consider it. General registration for next year, 2026, will open up in March and April. This is, and of course you can always go to Dice Tower East and Dice Tower West, but registration for both of those is wide open. Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about the checkouts. So a lot of games are played. We were on the boat for a week. The library wasn't open for quite a week. I think it was open for about 6 straight days. And we were using a new checkout system, so some games may not have gotten checked out completely properly. And between 1 and 7 in the morning, games just got played, not necessarily checked out. But it is what it is. I mean, there's a ton of games. There's still a lot of good information here. So I looked at all the different games in the library that were played various times. Some things surprised me and some didn't. And I want to talk about that. We'll talk about the interesting stats first. Let's start with the top 10 because I think that's the most important part here. And so number 10 is a tie between Ito. No, Ito's number 11. I'm sorry. So close, Ito. You almost made it. 28 times Ito was checked out. Number 11, Ito, party game. And in fact, Ito, there was 2 different versions of Ito, and I think if it had a possibility of there being a third version, it might have got played more because it was played a lot. Number 10 is a tie between Kelp, Shark versus Octopus, and Let's Go to Japan. Kelp is a game that we pushed a lot. I'm sure a lot of people want to play it because it was on several of our top 10 lists. Also, it's a 2-player game, easy to get to the table, easy to learn. And Let's Go to Japan, just a very popular game about planning a trip to Japan. This is one that I knew was popular earlier this year. It came out early in the year, but it just keeps rolling over, and people are really enjoying it. And AEG definitely has another franchise on their hands. The next one that we have here is, for 30 checkouts, was Captain Flip. So this Spiel des Jahres nominee, which we played, and we were like, yeah, it's fine. It's a nice little light game. That nice little light game works well in cruises. And in fact, you're going to see that on this list, that there's a lot of light games. Don't get me wrong. Heavy games were played, and I'll talk about some of them. But also remember, heavy games take sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours. It's easier to get these other ones to the table. But Captain Flip with 30. 31 plays for River Valley Glassworks. This is a game from All Play, which is possibly a Spiel des Jahres contender. Just so easy, again, to play this as you collect glass and put on your board, and people were really enjoying that. Tie with River Valley Glassworks, 31, is Castle Combo. Now, this was one that Z really enjoyed, was one of his top games from last year, but he's not the only one. I think it's a very clever little collecting game. Reminds me of how popular Fantasy Realms was back in the day. This has a similar thing to it, although it looks better. 32 plays, still going strong, Sky Team. This 2-player cooperative game, just people are really enjoying it. And considering this is not a brand new game, I found that to be very impressive. All right, number 5, a game that got played a lot. And when people played it, I talk about these, this is a very short game, but people played it over and over and over and over and again. So I think some people played this for hours straight. And I know this because the cards for it are worn down completely. And that's the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. An easy game to play, very short cooperative trick-taking game, but then people play the next mission, then the next mission, then the next mission. And it still got played 33 times despite all that. So very, very popular game. Number 4, still very popular, Harmonies. And I got a little upgrade that holds the pieces in place, which I thought was cool. But again, people are really liking this pattern placing game. Harmonies almost feels like the successor to Cascadia. It's not as heady as Cascadia, I think. But it looks really pretty, so it's doing very well. Number 3 was a surprise to me. Actually, 3 and 2 are both a surprise to me, although I'm pleased about them. Number 3 is Fromage, the cheese game, a game in which the board rotates each turn, and you are working in your quadrant. So easy to play with wonderful pieces. R2I Games, the ones who made this, have another hit on their hands. These guys are really doing well in that regard. 35 checkouts. Number 2 at 38 checkouts, and I think this is the sleeper hit of the con. It's a game I really, really enjoy, and everyone who played it was telling everyone else, and so they kept playing it, and that's Bomb Busters. This deduction game just does so well. I'm very pleased to see this one just growing and growing, just the excitement around it. And number 1 with 48 checkouts, well, no big surprise here, another 2-player game, The Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. This is just one of the hottest games of the year. It's Lord of the Rings, Bruno Catala, Vincent Dutray. I mean, you add all that stuff together, and what do you get? Just an amazing game. And in fact, I should mention that because when we look at franchises, Lord of the Rings is winning 81 checkouts for the Lord of the Rings games. Nothing else really came close to that. Pandemic was checked out 19 times, mostly the base game, but Iberia was checked out. Dune Imperium, the 2 of those were checked out 16 times. Everdell, 18 times between the 3 of those. Ticket to Ride, 23 different times. Star Wars was checked out a lot. Oddly enough, the one checked out the most, Dark Side Rising. But I think that's because you can't get that in America. So there's a lot of different games that were checked out. I did want to mention some of the other ones, the heavier games. Number 12, which missed the list, Mistborn, the deck building game. That's very, very popular. A lot of people might wonder about Arcs. So that got 23 checkouts. And considering how long Arcs is, that's pretty impressive. Along with that, Slay the Spire got 21 checkouts. I'm still happy to see Foundations of Rome got 19 checkouts, how big that is. And that's not counting that Foundations of Metropolis got 10. So technically, that's like 29 checkouts. And then the Wonders Creatures got checked out 19 times. SETI got checked out 19 times. And realize that's a longer game. There's some longer games that aren't going to get checked out as much just because it takes so long. For example, Civolution got checked out 14 times, but each of those games was pretty long. Freedom 5 got checked out 14 times, and that's a longer one. Explorers of Navoria got checked out 16 times. Space Base is a surprise to me, and considering that Space Base Command Station got checked out 9 times, technically Space Base got checked out 25 times, which almost puts it in the top 10, and again, an older game. Things and Rings got checked out quite a bit. Rebirth, Wormspan, Joyride, World Wonders, River of Gold, Arc Nova, Invincible, I Heart Manatees, Tea Garden. So there's just a lot of cool different games that got checked out. Some things of note. I saw Agricola checked out 6 times. Caverna once. So there you have it. That's just some information about Dice Tower Cruise. At some point, we'll post some of these stats on our Dice Tower Statistic Facebook group. But I hope you find that interesting, and I hope to see you at a future Dice Tower event, whether it's the cruise or the next one coming up, Dice Tower West. You can still get a ticket for that. I'll see you in just a little over a month and a half if you're going to that. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video on the Dice Tower. Hey, do you want to know what's going on with Dice Tower? Do you want to know about our events, our cruises, special things that we're going to do live here in the Dice Tower? Subscribe to Dice Tower Digest. Go to DicetowerDigest.com. It's a newsletter that we send out bi-weekly. We won't use your email for anything else. This is just to get you some information about the Dice Tower so you'll be up to date. Thanks for watching.